The mining station on Rhea was usually a quiet place where nothing changed except the shift schedule and the hum of old machines. Daniel Hart liked it that way. He was an engineer who preferred silence, tools, and simple routines. Every day he checked the oxygen filters, tightened loose cables, and fixed the same broken doors that had been jamming for months. It was predictable, safe, and almost peaceful. But that peace ended the moment the emergency sirens screamed through the metal corridors. Daniel froze, a wrench still in his hand. The lights flickered red, and the announcement echoed through the station. Unknown vessel docking, all personnel stand by. He felt a chill run down his spine. Rhea Station never received visitors. The nearest human ship was days away. Whoever was docking now wasn't human. Curiosity and fear pushed Daniel toward the docking bay. Workers crowded behind crates and pillars, whispering nervously. Even the guards, who rarely looked awake, kept their hands tight on their weapons. The huge docking doors slid open with a groan. A wave of cold air rolled into the bay as a damaged alien craft lowered its ramp. Smoke drifted out, and for a moment no one dared move. Then she appeared. A tall alien woman stepped out, unsteady on her feet. Her skin shimmered with glowing blue markings that moved gently like ripples across water. Her silver eyes scanned the humans, not with anger, but with exhaustion and fear. One of her arms hung limp, damaged or wounded. Daniel felt his breath catch. She didn't look like a monster or an enemy. She looked lost. The guards raised their rifles. Someone whispered, "Is she dangerous?" Someone else muttered, "What if she's leading others here?" The alien woman winced at the noise, her glowing patterns dimming like fading lights. She took a small step forward, then stopped, swaying slightly. Daniel didn't know what pushed him, but he stepped out from the crowd. Maybe it was her trembling arm, or the way she looked like she was barely holding herself together. Or maybe he just saw someone who needed help. He walked slowly, hands open and empty. The guards hissed warnings, but he ignored them. His legs felt weak, but he kept moving until he stood only a few steps away from her. The alien woman's eyes met his. Her markings flickered, blue to violet and back again. He didn't know what those colors meant, but they didn't feel threatening. His voice almost failed him, but he forced out a gentle whisper. "Your markings, they're very beautiful." The humans behind him went silent. The guards stared at him like he had lost his mind. Complimenting an alien? Was he crazy? But something unexpected happened. The alien woman's expression softened, and her markings brightened, warm, glowing, alive. She drew a shaky breath, and for the first time since she stepped out of the ship, she smiled. Not a human smile, not with lips, but through her eyes, her posture, and the soft wave of glowing color that traveled across her skin. She spoke in accented but clear English. "You are very brave, human." Daniel blinked. Brave? He didn't feel brave. His hands were shaking. But when she said it, he felt something warm rise in his chest, like her words carried a gentle energy of their own. Before he could reply, her knees weakened. She staggered sideways, and Daniel rushed forward, catching her before she collapsed. Her skin felt warm, almost like sunlight. Gasps filled the room. Guards pointed weapons, workers shouted. But the alien woman rested her head against Daniel's shoulder, breathing hard, as if trusting him completely. Daniel held her steady, heart pounding. Whatever she had escaped, whatever danger was chasing her, it had followed her here. And in that moment, he knew his quiet routine was over forever. Daniel guided the alien woman through the narrow corridor, her weight leaning heavily on him. Her steps were slow, unsteady, and every few seconds her shimmering markings flickered weakly, as if each movement drained what little strength she had left. Workers watched from a distance, whispering, stepping back as she passed. No one offered help. No one wanted to get close. But Daniel didn't let go of her, not even when his arms began to ache. She spoke softly. "I am Lyra, that is my name." "Lyra," Daniel repeated gently. "I'm Daniel, you're safe here. I'll take you to the medical bay." Her markings shifted to a pale blue, calmer now, less afraid. He didn't understand her colors, but he could feel the emotion behind them. It was like watching someone's heart speak without words. When they reached the medical bay, the door slid open with its usual broken squeak. The only doctor on the station, Dr. Miles, approached with worry on his face. "What happened? Is she armed? Is she hostile?" "No," Daniel said firmly. "She's hurt." Lyra raised her good hand slowly, showing she carried no weapon. Dr. Miles hesitated, then nodded for Daniel to help her onto the metal examination table. She winced as her damaged arm touched the cold surface, her markings dimming again. Daniel stepped back only when she was lying safely. Dr. Miles scanned her with a handheld device, frowning at the strange readings. "Her biology is nothing like ours. I don't even know where to start." Lyra closed her eyes. "I understand. I will try to explain." Daniel listened as she spoke in a tired, fragile voice. She belonged to a peaceful exploration group patrolling empty regions of space. But 2 days ago, her vessel picked up shadows, unknown ships tracking them through dark sectors. At first, they thought it was nothing. Then the attack came. "We were ambushed," she whispered. "My crew, I do not know if they survived." Her voice cracked. The glowing lines along her neck dimmed to a dull gray, the color of grief. Daniel felt something twist inside him. He had never met anyone from another world before, yet seeing her pain felt strangely personal. "What about your ship?" he asked softly. "Damaged, it forced emergency landing. I had little control." Dr. Miles worked slowly, carefully cleaning the wound on her arm. The tissue was unlike anything he had seen, but he tried his best. Lyra never flinched, but her markings trembled like quiet waves. Daniel noticed it first. "You're in pain." "I have known worse," she replied. "I am only tired." She looked at him again, and the warmth in her eyes startled him. She barely knew him, yet she trusted him more than the others in the room. Dr. Miles stepped back. "I've done what I can. It's not perfect, but it should stop the bleeding and stabilize her." "Thank you," Lyra said. The dimness around her brightened again. Daniel grabbed a chair and sat beside the table. "You need rest. You can stay here until you recover." Lyra studied him for a long moment. "You speak with kindness. Many of your people look at me with fear." He glanced toward the window where workers passed by, staring inside like children watching a dangerous animal behind glass. "They're scared," Daniel admitted. "They've never seen someone like you." "And you," she asked quietly, "are you scared too?" Daniel looked at her glowing eyes, her trembling markings, her injured arm, and the fragile strength in her voice. "A little," he said honestly, "but I'm more worried about you." Her markings shifted suddenly, deep violet, rich and warm. He didn't know what it meant, but he knew it wasn't fear. "Your heart is unusual, Daniel Hart," Lyra said gently. "Humans surprise me." Outside the medical bay, the station lights flickered. Somewhere deep in the dark, a distant signal pulsed, cold, sharp, searching. Danger had not ended. It had only just begun. Daniel sat beside Lyra for hours, watching her rest. Her shimmering markings had softened to gentle waves of blue, but he noticed that each flicker seemed linked to the faint hum coming from the station's external sensors. Something was out there, something they could not see. The human workers avoided the medical bay, whispering behind closed doors. They had seen the alien and feared the unknown. Daniel understood their fear, but he also felt something different, a need to protect her, to understand her. She had entrusted herself to him, and he could not let that trust be broken. Finally, Lyra stirred, opening her silver eyes. They glowed softly, catching the dim light of the room. She studied Daniel with curiosity, almost as if she were reading his thoughts. "The signals," Daniel said, pointing to the screen. "They're unusual. I don't recognize the pattern, but they are searching, maybe tracking someone." Lyra's markings shifted quickly from calm blues to deep violet streaks. She inhaled slowly, steadying herself. "They follow me. I sense them for days before arrival. Their intent is not negotiation." Daniel leaned closer. "Then we need to understand them before they find us." She nodded. "Yes, I can help, but your technology is limited. We must combine knowledge." He felt a flicker of hope. Together, maybe they had a chance. Over the next hours, Daniel and Lyra pored over the station's scanners and sensors. He explained human technology, communications arrays, energy pulses, and signal encryption. She explained alien methods, frequency manipulations, energy resonances, and the ways her kind could hide in plain sight. Her markings pulsed rapidly with each explanation, colors shifting in patterns he could not name, but he could feel her emotions, tension, excitement, concentration. "I do not fully trust them," she said finally, voice quiet. "They are organized. They will pursue relentlessly if I am allowed to escape." Daniel's hand brushed against hers by accident, and she froze, then flickered a soft teal, a sign of recognition, perhaps, or gratitude. It made his heart pound, though he could not explain why. Suddenly, the main console beeped urgently. A new signal appeared, stronger than before, sweeping across the station's sensors. The pattern was jagged, erratic, almost like a warning. "They are close," Lyra whispered, her markings now flashing with rapid violet pulses. Daniel took a deep breath. "Then we prepare. If they arrive, we have to protect ourselves, and we have to protect you." Her gaze met his, silver eyes shining with a mixture of fear and trust. "You risk yourself for someone you barely know." "I don't know about that," Daniel admitted. I know it feels wrong to stand by while someone suffers, even if they're not human." Lyra's markings softened, flowing slowly like water. "Your kind is unusual. You are small and fragile, yet your courage, it inspires." Daniel chuckled softly, though it sounded hollow in the quiet room. "I don't feel like much of a hero." "You are," she said simply, "even if you do not see it yourself." They spent the next few hours scanning the station perimeter, marking every unusual reading. Daniel noticed the way Lyra studied each screen, her movements careful and precise despite her injuries. Her presence was calming, yet it made him aware of the fragility of life in a way he had never experienced. Then, without warning, a sharp tremor ran through the station. Lights flickered violently. The hum of machinery turned into a low groan. Something large, something outside, had made contact. Daniel's heart raced. "They're here," he muttered. Lyra's markings surged into bright violet flames. Her breathing grew faster, yet she stood. Despite her pain, despite the fear, she was ready. Daniel felt a strange mix of terror and determination. He had never imagined himself in a moment like this, human, fragile, facing something unknown and deadly. And yet beside him, Lyra's courage sparked a fire he hadn't known existed inside him. Whatever came next, he knew one thing for certain: he would not let her face it alone. And somewhere deep in the shadows beyond the station, the signals pulsed again, relentless and searching, ready to strike. The station shuddered as the tremor passed, and the lights flickered violently. Workers screamed and scrambled for cover, their fear tangible in the metal corridors. Daniel's heart pounded in his chest. He had faced alarms and minor accidents before, but nothing like this. Nothing that felt alive, threatening, and waiting just beyond the walls. "Stay close to me," Daniel said, taking Lyra's hand. Her markings glowed softly in response, a silent reassurance amid chaos. She had barely recovered from her wounds, yet her presence steadied him more than he expected. The station's external sensors confirmed their worst fears. A black, angular ship had emerged from the void, moving with terrifying precision. It was enormous, its shadows stretching across the docking bay, the hull, even the outer platforms. It radiated menace, like a predator watching prey. "They have found us," Lyra whispered, voice trembling slightly, though her posture remained upright. "We do not have much time." Daniel's mind raced. The station's defenses were limited, aging shields, a handful of energy turrets, and nothing remotely capable of matching the alien vessel's firepower. Yet he refused to step back. "We protect our people," he said firmly, scanning the room. "That includes you." Her markings pulsed bright violet, a combination of alarm and admiration. "Your courage is extraordinary. I do not understand it, yet it is comforting." The raider ship's first attack arrived in seconds, a flash of deadly energy slicing through the outer hull. Sparks rained down on the station, and alarms screamed over the frantic noise of systems failing. Daniel felt a shockwave rattle his bones and stumbled but kept his balance. Lyra staggered, leaning into him, and he steadied her once more. The workers panicked. Some ducked under tables. Others tried to flee through escape pods, but the exits were blocked by debris from the incoming blasts. Daniel saw fear in every face, yet he also saw hope in Lyra. She had not given in to despair. She moved with quiet determination, guiding workers to safer positions, her glowing markings painting the room in shifting colors of courage and resolve. Daniel rushed to the main console, fingers flying across controls he barely understood. Divert all power to shields, activate the turrets, don't let them breach the station. Lyra crouched beside him, placing her hand on the console. Her glowing markings pulsed and a low hum vibrated through the station. Daniel felt the energy ripple beneath his fingers. "I can stabilize some systems," she said, "but you must lead." He swallowed hard. Lead. He had never been a leader, never made life-or-death decisions before. Yet here he was, surrounded by terrified humans and a wounded alien depending entirely on him. The raider ship's next strike hit closer this time, shaking the station violently. Panels exploded, smoke filled the corridors, and the lights turned to emergency red. Daniel's chest tightened with fear. Then he saw her, Lyra, standing tall despite her pain, her markings blazing bright like flames. She looked at him, and for a brief moment all the fear melted away. "Do not falter, human," she said softly. "You have strength beyond measure." Daniel straightened, breathing hard. I won't let them win." Together, they coordinated the defense. Lyra's alien energy fused with the station's shields, stabilizing weak points, while Daniel directed the turrets, targeting the raiders' energy pulses. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and chaos reigned, but somehow the station held. Every strike they absorbed, every system they repaired, brought them closer to surviving the attack. Daniel realized something profound. Fear could freeze people, or it could ignite courage, and when combined with trust, it became something unstoppable. The shadows outside the station were still vast, and the enemy was still near. But Daniel knew that for the first time in his life, he was not just an engineer fixing doors. He was a protector. And beside him, Lyra's glowing presence reminded him why. The fight was far from over, but for the first time, hope flickered brighter than the fear. The raider ship hovered like a dark cloud over the station, its engines humming with deadly precision. Every pulse of light, every vibration through the hull reminded Daniel that time was running out. The workers huddled in safe rooms, their faces pale and trembling. Daniel could hear whispers of doubt, fear, and despair. But he could not let fear rule him, not now, not when Lyra depended on him. Lyra sat beside him in the control room, her arms still weak, her glowing markings dim with exhaustion. Yet her eyes held the same calm focus he had noticed when she first stepped onto the station. She studied the incoming signals, analyzing the raiders, every movement, as if she could read the patterns of destruction before they happened. "They will demand your surrender," she said softly, her silver eyes fixed on the dark outline of the enemy ship. "If they take me, this station will be destroyed." Daniel clenched his fists. "They won't get you, not while I'm here." She looked at him, her markings flickering deep violet. An emotion he had learned was a mixture of respect and hope. "Humans, sometimes you are small, fragile, yet you carry courage no others possess. I am grateful for you, Daniel Hart." He swallowed hard. "I'm just trying to do the right thing." The communication system crackled. The raider's voice was cold, mechanical, without warmth or mercy. "Release the alien, or we will burn this station to ashes." Daniel's mind raced. The station's defenses were failing, shields faltering with each strike. Workers were injured. The station itself was beginning to groan under the pressure of the raiders' firepower. Lyra's gaze met his. "I can leave. It will save the station, save your people. My presence brings danger to you." Her words cut through him. She was offering herself as a sacrifice, taking the weight of the threat upon herself. Daniel shook his head fiercely. "No," he said firmly. "We don't abandon anyone here, not you, not any of them. I won't let them decide for us." Her markings pulsed with surprise. "You refuse to yield, you risk everything." "Yes," he said, "because sometimes courage isn't about being fearless. It's about standing when it matters, even if you are afraid." For a moment, silence hung in the room. The distant hum of the raider ship felt deafening. Then, slowly, Lyra's markings glowed brighter, soft violet waves spreading across her body. "You are very brave, human," she said. "I will follow your lead." Daniel felt a rush of determination he had never known. He gave quick orders to the station's limited crew: reroute energy to failing shields, prepare defensive turrets, and coordinate with Lyra to maximize the alien technology she could lend. Workers hesitated, but Daniel's calm, firm voice inspired them to act. They moved like one unit, repairing panels, rerouting power, bracing for the next attack. The raiders struck again, cutting beams slicing through the station's outer hull. Sparks flew, alarms blared, and smoke filled the corridors. Daniel stood firm at the console, hands steady, directing Lyra's actions as they synchronized shields with human defenses. He caught her glance and smiled, though his heart raced. "We're going to get through this, together." Her markings flared brightly, glowing with emotion he had learned to recognize as trust. "Your courage, it saves more than machines and walls. It inspires hope in hearts." Daniel realized in that moment that bravery was contagious. Fear was natural, but it could be overcome when someone chose to act, to protect, to stand. Lyra's survival wasn't just about her. It was about proving to humans and aliens alike that courage mattered, even in the darkest moments. Outside, the raider ship loomed, but Daniel and Lyra's combined effort held the station together. Every strike they absorbed, every repair they made, brought them closer to surviving another minute. And in that minute, Daniel knew that the choice he had made, to protect, to risk, to stand firm, was more powerful than any weapon in the galaxy. For the first time, hope was no longer a fragile flicker. It was a blazing light. If you want, I can continue with Part 6, 650 words, where the battle intensifies and Daniel and Lyra fight side by side to survive the raiders. Do you want me to write that next? The station trembled as the raider ship loomed closer, its energy pulses cutting through the outer hull with unrelenting force. Sparks flew in every corridor, alarms screamed, and the hum of machinery turned into a chaotic roar. Daniel Hart's hands shook slightly as he gripped the control console, but his mind was sharp, his focus unbroken. Beside him, Lyra's markings glowed bright violet, pulsing rhythmically as if echoing her own heartbeat. She moved with precision, despite her injured arm, guiding power through the failing shields, stabilizing systems that should have already collapsed. Daniel had never seen anyone, human or alien, move with such calm under pressure. "They're targeting the life support array," Daniel shouted over the noise. Sparks erupted near the console as another beam sliced through the hull. Lyra's silver eyes narrowed. "We cannot allow that. It will collapse the station in seconds." Working together, Daniel and Lyra rerouted energy to critical systems. He handled the human tech. She fused alien energy into the circuits, their actions perfectly synchronized. With each pulse of her alien power, the shields shimmered, holding against the raiders' devastating strikes. Daniel glanced at her. "You're amazing," he said, his voice rising above the alarms. She gave a faint smile, her markings rippling like soft water. "You are brave beyond measure, Daniel. Humans, you surprise me." The raiders' next attack was closer than ever. Daniel felt the floor shake beneath his boots. Debris fell from the ceiling, hitting the walls with heavy thuds. Workers cowered in the corridors, eyes wide with fear, but Daniel ignored them. All that mattered was survival and keeping Lyra alive. A loud explosion rocked the control room. Panels fell, wires sparking dangerously. Daniel ducked instinctively, protecting Lyra as best he could. She pressed a small device from her suit against the main console. A pulse of energy shot through the station, reinforcing the shields, stabilizing the structure, and buying them precious moments. "You saved me," Daniel said breathlessly. Her markings flickered softly. "We save each other, that is what trust is." For a moment, the chaos seemed to pause. Daniel realized that the humans watching from the corridors had begun moving with purpose. Encouraged by his leadership and Lyra's strange presence, they were repairing broken panels, redirecting energy, and preparing defensive turrets. Hope had taken root, fragile but real. The raider ship fired again, this time aiming directly at the station's command hub. Daniel and Lyra's combined effort held the shields just long enough to absorb the impact. Sparks rained down and smoke filled the room, but the station did not collapse. Daniel felt a surge of triumph, but there was no time to celebrate. The attackers were relentless. "We need to make them leave," Daniel said, voice firm. "We can't just survive, we have to force them out." Lyra nodded, her markings flaring with determination. "Then we act together. Your courage, it gives me strength I have not known in years." They synchronized their efforts again, Daniel directing the human systems, Lyra channeling alien energy into shields and turrets. Each strike they absorbed, each system they repaired, made the station stronger. Daniel's heart pounded in rhythm with Lyra's glowing pulses, a strange harmony of human fear and alien power blending into one unstoppable force. Finally, a distant shimmer appeared in the void, the first sign of reinforcements. Lyra's eyes widened. "My people, they have come." Daniel exhaled, tension leaving him in a slow rush. The raider ship hesitated, pulsing against the strengthened shields. It had underestimated them, underestimated human determination and the unexpected partnership of human and alien. Daniel glanced at Lyra. "We made it," he said softly. Her markings glowed warm, bright violet and blue, a display of relief and admiration. "We survived together." For the first time in what felt like an eternity, the station was quiet enough to hear human voices cheering softly in the corridors. Hope had returned. And Daniel realized something profound. Bravery was not just the act of fighting. It was the act of standing together, of trusting another, of refusing to give in when the odds were impossible. Beside him, Lyra's presence radiated calm and strength. Together, they had faced overwhelming darkness and emerged not just alive, but victorious. And Daniel understood truly why she had called him brave. The reinforcements had arrived. Alien ships from Lyra's fleet surrounded the raider vessel, their engines humming like a living heartbeat. Pulses of energy flashed across the void, scattering the dark attackers and forcing them to retreat into the far reaches of space. The station trembled less now, but the damage was evident. Panels hanging loose, sparks crackling, corridors filled with smoke. Daniel sank into a chair, exhausted, his hands still trembling from hours of adrenaline. Lyra approached slowly, her good arm supporting herself. Her markings glowed softly, a quiet rhythm that reminded him of calm after a storm. For a moment, silence filled the room. No alarms, no sirens, only the soft hum of systems stabilizing and the distant engine pings of the returning alien fleet. "You did it," she said softly. Her silver eyes studied him with warmth he could not fully describe. "You risked yourself when fear would have been easier. Humans, you carry a strength that inspires even my people." Daniel shook his head. "I didn't do it alone. You saved this station as much as I did. I only tried to help." Her markings pulsed with violet and blue. "You did more than help. You led. You made the choice to act when others would have frozen. That is courage, Daniel Hart. That is bravery. That is what makes humans remarkable." Daniel felt a lump in his throat. He had never thought of himself as brave, never thought of his ordinary life as meaningful in the grand schemes of the galaxy. But hearing her words, seeing the truth reflected in her eyes, he realized something he had not known before. Courage was not about size, strength, or weapons. It was about standing even when you were afraid. It was about protecting those who could not protect themselves. Outside, the raider ship retreated into the black void, leaving the station battered but intact. Lyra's fleet escorted her damaged ship safely to the docking bay, stabilizing its systems with precision and care. The humans, hesitant at first, began to come out of hiding, their fear replaced by awe. They saw not just an alien visitor, but the courage of one human standing tall when it mattered most. Daniel and Lyra walked together to the observation deck. The station stretched behind them and smoking, yet alive. In the darkness beyond the hull, stars sparkled indifferently, but Daniel felt a deep connection to the vastness of space now, a reminder that bravery was not just personal. It resonated across worlds. "You once told me my markings were beautiful," he said quietly, watching the soft patterns shimmer across her skin. "But I think I understand something now. You showed me something even more beautiful, your courage, and you've reminded me of mine." Lyra's markings pulsed warmly, bright and steady. And you have reminded me of something important, too, that even the smallest beings can shine brightly if they choose to act with heart. Humans are unpredictable, but that unpredictability is what makes you extraordinary. Daniel felt a swell of pride, not for himself, but for humanity, for their ability to face fear, to rise to challenges that seemed impossible, for the quiet courage that could inspire even alien species to hope. Her transport vessel hummed nearby, ready to depart. Lyra turned to him, her hand reaching out in a gesture of respect. "You will remain in my memory, Daniel Hart. My people will remember the bravery of humans, and I will remember you." Daniel took her hand, firm but gentle. "Take care, Lyra, and thank you for trusting me, for surviving, for showing me what courage looks like." She nodded, her silver eyes glinting with emotion, and then stepped into the transport. The door sealed, her markings fading as the vessel lifted off, ascending toward her waiting fleet. Daniel watched until she disappeared into the void, the stars reflecting off his tired yet proud face. The station was quiet again, but it no longer felt ordinary. Something fundamental had changed. He had faced fear, stood for someone else, and survived. And for the first time, Daniel Hart understood what humanity could truly be. Brave, compassionate, and capable of inspiring hope, even in the darkest corners of the galaxy. He turned back to the station, battered but alive. And he smiled, knowing that courage, human courage, would always shine, no matter the distance or the darkness. HFY